Hello folks, so in this video we're going to talk about how we can take an equation with multiple variables and rearrange it so that we can solve it for another variable. Here's an example of why that would be helpful. So this equation right here is a way to convert between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So for us Americans, this equation would be helpful if we went to, say, some other country, which is, I think, most of them, that use Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. So for example, I'm from San Francisco, so I'm used to it being around, 60-ish degrees, right? But if I go somewhere else, if I went to, say, Paris or, China or some other country, on their weather forecast, I'm assuming, I've never actually been, that they give the temperature in Celsius. And so for me, I'm like, well, they say it's 20 degrees Celsius. I have no idea how hot it is outside. I don't know what to dress for. So what I would do is I would just take that, what I see on the weather channel, that temperature in Celsius, input it into this equation, and it would tell me, oh, it's actually going to be 70 degrees today. So this equation, as is, it turns the temperature from Celsius into Fahrenheit. And the way you could think of it is as inputs and outputs, is that it inputs, this is like a function machine that takes Celsius as the input and it outputs the temperature in Fahrenheit. And so this is helpful if me, an American, if I go to some other country. But if a foreigner comes to America, then they're going to want the reverse process because they're used to seeing temperature in Celsius. And so our weather channel is going to tell them, hey, it's going to be 75 degrees Fahrenheit today. And to them, they have no idea how hot it is. They don't know if they need to wear shorts or a sweater or whatever. So that's where this comes into play. And so what we're trying to do is solve for C. We want to create an equation, C equals something. And this equation is going to turn a Fahrenheit temperature, as it takes as the input, into the temperature in Celsius. So it'll output the temperature in Celsius. Oops. Output. Okay, there's a couple ways we could do this. So I'm gonna scooch down here. There's a couple ways we could do this. But at the end of the day, it's just manipulating this equation to get C by itself. And so there are two first steps, but either way, we should end up at the same place. So what I'm going to do first on the left side here is I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. Again, my end goal is to get C equals. C equals. Alrighty, so, sorry about that. I'll subtract 32 from both sides. So what this would look like again is, I'm going to copy the equation to start so you can see all my steps. This is also a nice little refresher on just how to solve equations. I will subtract 32, subtract, and 32 here. The nice thing about this is that you can just treat everything except the thing you're looking at, C for us, as a number. And so F right now, you can do whatever you want with it, because again, it is just a number. At the end of the day, it's going to say 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or whatever. And so I'll just have F minus 32 degrees. I just can't actually evaluate it because I don't know what F is. On the right side, we're going to get 9C over 5, and then plus 0 because 32 minus 32 is 0. Okay, so we'll scooch down here a little bit. Now, okay, I have C, and I'm multiplying by 9, and I'm also dividing by 5. So we can get rid of them at the same time or one at a time. For simplicity's sake, for the sake of this video, we're just going to do it one at a time just to make sure that we don't miss any steps. My next step here is I'll get rid of this divide by 5 by multiplying by 5. Right? We always get rid of things by doing the opposite. So I'm going to take the entire right side and go times 5. And I'm doing that to, again, get rid of those 5s. Those will simplify to 1. And on the right side, the left side, we're going to multiply by 5 as well. Here. Now we could actually distribute this 5 now if we really wanted to, but we don't necessarily have to. But we can. So I'll do that, and I'll get 5F minus, if I did this correctly, this should be 160, or 160. 160. And that's going to equal 9C. the last part here is to just get rid of that times 9 by doing the opposite. And it's dividing by 9. Now, I want to be careful of this divide by 9 because I've seen this a lot. Is it will divide by 9 here, and then I've seen people just divide one piece by 9. Remember that when you're doing an equation, you kind of think of it like a scale, and because it's an equation, it says it's equal. Our scale here, which I'm going to draw, is balanced, right? So we have our, we have our little scale here. It's balanced. Oh, sorry. Let me try to make that a little bit better. Right, they're balanced, they equal height. If I take the one side and I make it like 9 times as small, divide by 9, well, that side's going to be lighter now, of course, the right side. So I need to do that to the entire left side. If I just take one little piece and divide that by 9, well, the rest of it's still heavy, and so it's going to be unbalanced now. And so here's how I would kind of get rid of that. There's 2 ways to think about this. Or not get rid of that mistake. Is you could do it like this. You could take one side, divide by 9. Take this whole side, divide by 9. That's one way to show it. Or, I like to do it this way because it's kind of one less thing to keep track of, is multiply it by 1 over 9. Because the multiplying by 1 over 9 is the same as dividing by 9. And so we could do that on the left side as well. Times 1 over 9, like so. Once again, I could now distribute that 1 over 9, and we're going to see how it actually goes to every single piece. And so on the right side here, we're just going to end up with C, like so. And on the left, we're going to have 5f over 9 minus 160 over 9. And that's going to be our final answer. So if someone from overseas comes to the US and sees on the Weather Channel, oh, it's going to be 70 degrees Fahrenheit, they could use this equation to figure out, oh, it's actually going to be, I don't know, 22-ish degrees Celsius, and they know how to dress. Last way is we don't have to do it that way. I think this is the cleanest way, but we don't have to do it that way, because one first step you could do instead is to multiply by 5. And possibly this might make it more confusing, but I do want you to be aware that there are options. But if you want to do this, remember, you can't just multiply the one piece by 5. You got to multiply the entire left side and the entire right side. And so I'm going to take the entire left side times 5, the entire right side times 5. What's going to happen here? Well, on the left side, we'll get 5f. And make that a little neater for you. 5f. On the right side, now we could distribute that 5. And we can see, well, let's see, it'll be times 5 divided by 5. So that gets rid of that 5 in the denominator, leaving us with 9c plus 160. And now you can see it's looking very similar to the other equation. We need to get rid of this 160, so I'll subtract 160. Minus 160. Let's scooch down here. And we're left with 5f minus 160 equals 9c. And we're basically back to where we started before. We'll do the same thing just to get back here. And so no matter how you do it, as long as you're very, very careful with the steps, you'll get to the right place. Alrighty? We'll do one more slightly spicier example in the next video.